the fact that your testosterone levels may be the same as your opponent does not mean you don't have a physical advantage if you've lived 3 decades as a man.
That's right. Because of, among many other reasons, because of organizational effects of the testosterone that were present during your time in utero and early development and puberty, which will have shaped things like bone length, bone density, bone shape. Female and male skeletons are different. Women are adapted to have wide hips for childbearing. And yes, that may sound conservative and all, but it is true. And that means that we are less stable, for instance, just that one simple parameter. It is also true, for instance, that the Y chromosome itself has masculinizing effects. And that is not widely known. But the idea that we have the one thing, testosterone, as measurable right now, this is a failure of science, and it's more like scientism that says, we can measure the thing, therefore that's all that matters, and it just doesn't. So, I would say the number of mediocre male athletes who transition and become elite female athletes tells us all we need to know.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, of course, in Connecticut, we had on a couple of the girls who got burned by this, who were runners at the high school level, who were kicking butt, and then competitors who were biologically male, who ran as males the previous spring and couldn't win anything, crossed over without taking any hormones, without doing anything different, and in the fall started crushing the biological girls. And the biological girls raised their hands and said, this doesn't feel fair. And then it was, you're bigots. And the poor girls are like, wait, am I? I don't want to be bigoted. I just kind of want it to be fair. But can I expand it beyond that, Bret? Because you guys are, I think, taking a fair look at beyond the physical advantages. We are different, and we seem to be unwilling in today's day and age to admit that. I had a great talk with Abigail Schreier about it, how there's a reason beyond discrimination why you don't see tons of women in STEM. It's not all about gender bias. And yet what we're looking for now is just absolute parity. We need to have absolute parity in every field, at every college. There was a report out today from the National Student Clearinghouse saying we're losing men on college campuses like crazy. That there's 1.5 million fewer students enrolled in higher ed today than there were in 2016. Men account for 71% of the decline. Soon, 2 women will graduate for every man on college campuses. This, as STEM fields say, we've got to have more women. They've committed to reaching a target of 50-50 representation. You've got just this increasingly lopsided approach to admissions, like more women. I just don't think this is going to solve it. I don't know that women have the same interest in all the STEM fields as men.
Well, there's a question about what there is even to solve. And as we get better and better at generating opportunity that really is available to a wider range of people, our focus on small things, parameters that may not indicate anything, is actually off, right? A basic difference between males and females in what they're interested in is not an indication that anybody has been excluded from anything. So there's a question about what all of this activism is. Is it really targeted at problems that need solving? Undoubtedly, some of it is, but a large amount of it appears to be activism for its own sake. And I would point out, you said you were born in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to be the year that the song Lola by the Kinks rose to the top 10 in both the UK and the US.
Oh, on behalf of my Sirius XM colleagues, I thank you for that bit of music history. Keep going.
Well, I mean, it's important because if you've ever, probably the 3 of us all know the lyrics to that song.
Mm-hmm.
He uses her pronouns. He recognizes that she is in fact a man, but he is compassionate towards her. In fact, he that's the way I want it to stay for my Lola. And the point is, he is actually sympathetic to her cause. This is
I never realized it was telling a story. Like, all I know is Lola, la 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 la. It's like a la 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 Lola.
Well, there is a story there. The story is
go back and listen.
Beautiful woman comes up to him in some kind of a bar situation and asks him to dance. And she speaks like a man. And in any case, the point is, Everybody got this. This is a boomer phenomenon,
Except
right?
me.
The boomers understood this. And is it tough to be trans? Undoubtedly. But the point is, not only is the recognition that there was a problem to be solved at least 50 years old, but we've made progress since then. The fact is, almost everybody is on board with the idea that you should effectively be able to present as you wish within reason. But there are places where that has to stop. It does not allow a man to declare himself female and use that loophole to compete fairly in women's sports. It obviously can't be. And there's an even worse case, which is the separate prison system for men and women. Can a sexual predator declare themselves female and go to a women's prison? This is obviously absurd. And anybody who can't see it is either a fool or not telling the truth.
They can. The answer to that question is absolutely they can do that. And they are doing it in places like California, where the last I looked, it was about a month ago, not a single request for transfer had been denied from a biological male in a men's prison who says, I'm trans. And by the way, you don't have to have a history of being trans either. You can suddenly come to Jesus in the prison and say, aha, I think I'm really a woman. And they will transfer you. Nothing's been denied yet. And the women in the women's prisons are terrified. They have to not only, live amongst these, people claiming to be female who may have a sexual predator history. They've got to be behind bars in a, 9x12 cell full time with said person. No one seems to give a damn, all in the name of wokeness, equity, what have you. It's absurd. And I've said this before, but at every time, at every turn, the women lose this debate. At every time, whether it's running in a race, at an MMA fight, while sitting in a prison, women who are there with their daughters in a locker room who say, she's a little young to see a penis come out of nowhere. While we're in the women's locker room, they're not trying to be insensitive. They're trying to ask for some sensitivity to biology and, as you point out, millions of years of human history. Yeah,
it's societally sanctioned misogyny. And
we're good way of putting it.
We're a year older than you, but we're all Gen Xers here. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to guess, Megyn, that you and I had similar experiences growing up on opposite coasts of being girls who felt like the world was our oyster. We could do anything. We were now allowed to consider doing anything that once had been the domain of men. And that is not the same as imagining that we were men or we were going to become men or that we're going to displace men, but just that the opportunities were now open. And boy, are we going backwards.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, it's crazy to me because at no point did I have any gender confusion whatsoever. I enjoyed looking like a boy. I enjoyed having boy hair and what really looked like a boy face and certainly boy fashion. And all my toys were Incredible Hulk and, superheroes. My mom begged me to get a dress and a doll. I was like, hell no. Well, look at me now, right? Like in today's day and age, they'd be sending me in to go have a double mastectomy. I mean, it's like we've lost our ever-loving minds and the girls always suffer.